What's on your radar, Ryan?
Well, today I want to talk a little bit about the unfortunate fate of one Mr. Cody Reynolds of Oregon. So Cody had a dream. He wanted to become a politician. In 2012, he ran for Congress in Oregon's 1st congressional district as part of the, quote, Progressive Party. He got less than 5% of the vote, but he didn't give up. In 2014, he ran as a Green Party candidate and did a little bit worse than he'd done the cycle before. In 2016, he upped the ante and ran for Senate, this time winning the Independent Party nomination, but he lost to Ron Wyden in the general, getting just 3% of the vote. In 2018, Cody switched districts, this time running in Oregon's 2nd, but he dropped out before votes were cast. It was after that race that Cody realized he needed a different game plan. What he needed was money. And so Cody set out to become a crypto millionaire so he could buy himself a House seat. And that's not me guessing about his motivation. That's basically what he told a local paper, the Willamette Week. Quote, Reynolds says after failing to make a dent in previous elections, he set out to accumulate enough wealth to self-fund his next campaign and did so through early and timely investments in cryptocurrencies. He's changed his minor party affiliation to Democrat and pledges to spend enough to reach every voter in his district. Reynolds said, quote, before, I naively thought I could do that with ideas and passion, but the political system is no longer a marketplace of ideas. It's also about reach and money. And hey, good for Cody Reynolds. The American dream to get hold of enough crypto to buy a House seat is alive and well. He's now a candidate for Oregon's 6th congressional district, and he has pumped $2.5 million of his new crypto wealth into the race. There was one flaw in the plan, though. If you're trying to buy a seat, you better be the highest bidder. And in Oregon, Cody found himself up against a bigger gorilla. And if you're into crypto, you know who he is. He's known as SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried. Forbes puts his wealth as of today at $24 billion, almost all of it connected to crypto. He created a super PAC called Protect Our Future, which says that its focus is pandemic preparedness, but it teams up with other crypto-backed PACs and is starting to reshape congressional primaries. That kind of crypto money is what crypto bro Cody Reynolds never saw coming. So far, Protect Our Future PAC has spent some $6 million and counting to support a guy named Carrick Flynn in the Democratic primary against Cody Reynolds. Sam Bankman-Fried's brother runs the PAC and also runs an organization called Guarding Against Pandemics. According to Flynn's LinkedIn, a month after Gabriel Bankman-Fried became director of the anti-pandemic organization, Flynn got a contract as a, quote, disaster prevention specialist and moved back from Washington, D.C. to Oregon. So local reporters also sussed out that Flynn has almost never voted in Oregon, and even though he was living there in 2020, he skipped that election. And to be clear, $6 million in a Democratic primary that almost nobody is paying attention to is an astounding amount of money. But that's not all. Out of nowhere, the House Majority PAC, which is the House Democratic Super PAC, jumped into the race with $1 million backing Flynn. Mind you, it's not just Cody Reynolds who's in the race. There are 3 viable progressive women of color all in the race, and now the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and Congressional Black Caucus are both livid at the party for intervening. The candidates released a rare joint statement basically calling the whole arrangement corrupt, saying, with so much needed to defend the House, how can they afford involvement in a primary? Why is this happening? Where is this money coming from? And what does its source want in exchange? Anyway, it's pretty clear where the money came from. Oregon's 6th congressional district might be the most absurd display of crypto money sloshing around in our politics, but it's not at all the only one. SBF's PAC recently threw in $1 million to take out Nina Turner in her rematch against Shontel Brown in Ohio. One of the most outspoken Democratic critics of crypto in Congress is California Representative Brad Sherman. This cycle, he's being challenged by Erika Rhodes, who's a school teacher organizing her entire campaign around the defense of crypto and opposition to Sherman's critical approach. And she has drawn support from crypto advocates. Now, whether the spending against Sherman will unseat him or not, other incumbents and challengers are observing the dynamic. Opposition to crypto risks an onslaught from the industry, and support of crypto invites a tsunami of supportive spending. Yet the reverse is not true. Opposition to crypto is not rewarded by any organized constituency, and support of crypto is not punished by any organized constituency. That type of asymmetry has long shaped niche policy debates in Washington. Supporters of agricultural subsidies, for instance, spend heavily to get their issue noticed, but there is little in the way of organized opposition to those subsidies because nobody cares enough, so the subsidies just sail through Congress. Now, some candidates are simply saying yes to the crypto agenda so they can focus on things they actually care about. Jasmine Crockett, for instance, running in a Texas district to replace Representative Eddie Bernice Johnson, had no history as either an outspoken advocate for crypto or an opponent of regulation, but facing the question in the campaign, she sided with the policy positions favored by crypto PACs. The two major crypto super PACs came in with $1 million each, helping to put her over the top. And so I was talking to Dave Dayen, who runs the American Prospect, and he was like, man, so nice when it was just corporate dark money that was sloshing through these campaigns. You kind of knew you didn't know exactly what you were fighting against, but you sort of knew. This is just a wrench thrown into the whole thing. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, Nina Turner facing $1 million from a crypto PAC.
Well, but wait a minute, Ryan. I mean, I like crypto. They can just adopt friendlier. I think that would be correct to adopt a friendlier approach to crypto. Or not demonize and be terrified of it, as some in the Democratic Party seem to be, as Elizabeth Warren, for instance, seems to be. Maybe it needs some kind of regulation or some kind of something, but I think it's a promising technology that is the future, and there's no need to be relentlessly terrified of it.
I mean, certainly a lot of them are just going to take that approach.
Yeah.
They're going to say, all right, look, this is like the 17th highest thing that I care about. Mm-hmm. And if I just have to fill out this questionnaire and answer all these things this way, but where does that stop? Like if you have this, just massive amount of wealth just sitting in the sidelines that's just created every day, do they just get whatever they want out of the political system? Is that how this ultimately shakes out?
I mean, probably. in reality, probably. Yeah. No, I don't know. You and I disagree. I tend to disagree with. I don't know how much you can't just buy the election.
As Cody Reynolds is finding out.
Right. It's not just like, I have more money or I have this pile of cash, I'm set. Hillary Clinton raised more money than Donald Trump and didn't spend more and didn't matter. So I'm never quite as concerned, I think, as my friends on the left about this sort of thing, because at the end of the day, no amount of money can save a doomed campaign or a doomed candidate or someone who's not resonating with the voters or someone who is just utterly disliked or has completely the wrong ideas.
And we'll see in Oregon 6, because it's interesting, because you've got he's spent so much money. It might have been smarter to spend $3 million, because with the $6 million plus then the extra $1 million, and it's probably by the time this is airing, it's probably $7 million. Mm-hmm. Like there's so many canvassers that are being paid by Carrick Flynn or are being paid by the super PAC. There's so many ads, so many mailers. The numbers are just flying. Throw in the $1 million, now there's all sorts of public attention to it in the district. The question is whether the voters are paying enough attention to catch on to this, or whether they're just going to see the ads and be like, oh, I know that name, and then when they go in, they check that name. In some ways, it's easier to buy a primary than it is to buy the general election.
Right.
And so this is a D+6 race, which means basically Democrats should win it, but could lose it. And I think Republicans are hoping, definitely, that the crypto candidate, one of the two crypto candidates, survives, so that they can then run their entire general election campaign saying that this was a special interest, that somebody just came in and is trying to buy this seat. Whereas the other candidates are fairly typical Democrats, like a state senator, a county commissioner, that sort of thing, that would probably be harder for Republicans to beat. And so in these sleepy primaries where there's very little media coverage in general, in some ways you kind of can buy them if you have enough money, I think. Okay. But you maybe can't buy the general.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll come back in November and watch that. It'll be interesting. They spend $20 million to win the primary and then lose it to the Republicans.
Get knocked out in this wave that is coming.
Yeah.
Oof. It's going to be an interesting November.
It's a big one. Anyway, looking forward to what's on your radar.